Here we're going to look at a graph and try to figure out where are the positive outputs, where are the negative outputs, where are the zero outputs, where is it increasing, decreasing, all of that good stuff that we've reviewed. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up. This is our x-axis. It's labeled here for us. I'm going to write it even bigger. This is our x-axis. So the first part of this says figure out where are the outputs bigger than 0. So these are the positive outputs. And where is the output less than 0? So where are the negative outputs? So I'm going to label the graph. Anything above the x-axis is a positive output. Anything below the x-axis is a negative output. So in terms of this graph, a positive output is where h of x is bigger than 0. Gives you positive numbers. Negative output is where h of x is less than 0. That's what this function is called. And I want to write that in interval notation. It says find the x interval where h of x is bigger than 0 and where h of x is smaller than 0. So I'm going to start by picking out what is below the x-axis. So this piece is below and this piece is below. And then I want to pick out what's above the x-axis. This piece is above and this piece is above. All right, so when we look at this graph, the first thing we can talk about are our positive outputs. What part is above the x-axis? So that green part is above the x-axis. So anywhere from, these are always x values, so x is -3 to x is +6. -3 to +6. All of those values in between from -3 through +6 have positive outputs. It's above the x-axis. So the question is, do we do round parentheses to exclude these endpoints, or do we do square parentheses to include them? So I might need to erase some of this to see if we should include or exclude this. So looking at -3, the y value there is 0. This is a 0 output, not a positive output. So -3 is not going to be included. It does not give us a positive output, but hey, -2.999 as I get really close to -3 does. So -3 not included gives us positive outputs. And then looking at 6 also gives us a 0 output. 0 is technically not a positive number. It's not positive or negative. So we're going to exclude that on our interval. So now we've covered that first interval of positive outputs above the x-axis. And then there's also this little piece to consider here. And we want to look at those x values. So I'm going to do union. Our other interval starts at 10. And then the x value goes to 11. And now I want to figure out, do I need open or closed parentheses? So let's look at this. Well, 11 is definitely included because the output there is 1. That's a positive output. But we have the point 10, 0. That's a 0 output. We've learned that with 0 outputs, we don't include them as being positive, since 0 is not positive or negative. Now, if we look at the next piece, it says find the x interval. Remember, we're answering in x values, not y values in this interval notation. And we want to figure out where h of x is less than 0, where the output is less than 0. We want negative outputs. We're looking at these yellow intervals. Where is it below the x-axis? So first x value is -6. That has a y value of -3, so it definitely has a negative output. And then it goes to -3. -3 has a 0 output, which is not a negative number. So anything up until -3. So -3.1 would be good, but just not -3. So we want to exclude -3 with a round parentheses. Union, we have our other interval over here, and that's going from the x value 6 to the x value 10. I'm looking at the x values of these points. And now I want to figure out, do I include them or not? with round or square parentheses. Well, 6 to 10. 6 has a 0 output, which is not negative, so we're not going to include 6. But starting at 6.001 would be a negative output. So we want to do 6 to 10. They both have 0 outputs, which are going to give us round parentheses each time. So there's our positive and negative outputs. The next one below there is finding where h of x, the y value, in other words, or the output, equals 0. So we have these spots, these 3 ones in blue here. We have x equals -3, has an output of 0, x equals 6, and x equals 10. 3 places where we touch the x-axis, where the y value is 0. And now we're going to completely switch gears and look at this other part, increasing and decreasing. So increasing and decreasing doesn't have to do with position on the graph. It doesn't have to do with being above or below the x-axis. It has to do with rising versus falling. So we're going to label this as increasing and decreasing because the next part says where is the function decreasing. So if we trace this left to right, are we rising or falling left to right? I would say that we're rising. So we have a positive slope for the first part. Now if we keep tracing it, it starts going down left to right. So we have a negative slope. Then this last piece, as we trace it left to right, looks like it's rising again. So it's positive. I'm just doing different colors to show you what I'm doing with my finger here. So as I trace it from left to right with my hand, I'm getting positive slope to a negative slope to a positive slope. And this part says, where is the function decreasing? That's wherever we're falling as we read it left to right, just like we read English. So this decreasing interval, we want to write it in interval notation. So from 2 is the x value of this first point here, all the way over to the x value 8. And since 2 is kind of a soft peak on the graph, it's not really falling quite yet at 2, I'm going to do a round parentheses. And then 8, again, is a soft peak. Soft peaks actually have a slope of 0, not decreasing. So we're going to go from 2 to 8 and have open parentheses. All right, the next piece asks us about our domain and our range of this graph. So domain is left to right, what x values are included, and range is actually the only time we ever write y values in interval notation. Everything else, all of our other answers have been about x, but here we have the range we want to write in interval notation, so we're going to look down to up. So domain, what's the lowest x value on here? So left to right, how far left do we go? So left to right, here's the furthest left I see, and that x value is -6. We're going to include that because that's part of our domain. It has a closed circle. And then we're going to look as far to the right as we go. So here's as far to the right, and that x value is 11. It has a point that it stops at, not an open circle, so we're going to include it with a square parentheses. Range is the only time we're going to ever write y values in interval notation, so I'm looking down to up. So as low down as I see, the lowest y value is -3 included. And then as high up as I can see that we touch. So highest up is at +4 for the y value of that point. All right, last piece says, what do you get when you plug in 8 for x? What's the y value? So I'm looking at the graph for the x value 8. Here's my point. When you plug in 8, the y value is -2. So finally a nice simple answer that doesn't have to be in interval notation. All right, as I scroll down here more, there is more to find. And I kind of wanted to do it in a mixed order so we could review everything piece by piece. So we found increasing. Was increasing talking about the parts above or below? No. Increasing is saying where are you rising, where are you falling. So increasing is these positive intervals. Where is the graph rising? So starting after -6, I see that it's going up. All the way till I get to the x value 2, that soft peak, we're going to put around parentheses. It's not technically increasing there. And then also over here, it's increasing. So I'm going to do union. 8 is the x value. Remember, we just did range, but don't get confused. Range is the only time you look for a y value. We're looking back at x now. X is 8, all the way over to x is 11. And round parentheses, because it's not technically still increasing at 11 anymore. Any of those soft peaks is where it switches from increasing to decreasing. So we must have a slope of 0 at those soft peaks. To go from a positive to a negative slope, you have to go through 0. All right, last question. Find all x for which h of x equals 3. So I want to list some x values where the y value is 3. So the y value 3 on the graph is right here. There's actually one spot right there. Is there any other spot on the graph that touches that y equals 3? Yeah, there's another point over here. So there's 2 places with a y value of 3. It's at x is 0, has a y value 3, and x is 4. And there we've done a huge interpretation of all the things we could find on this graph.